again, I am always just I'm kind of dumbfounded about how the change happens and how people get engaged with it, and that for the biggest part, it just flows. It just, like you said, that ripple it's not a big waves and storms and white caps and stuff. It just ripples out because people understand this is good stuff. And I'm getting to know people that I normally wouldn't know. And I'm getting to know things about myself, even in the Black community, folks understanding, because there's some people who just believe white people know what they're doing. They are just bad. They're doing this stuff on purpose. And I'm trying to help them understand. No, they don't. They really don't. So it's twofold.
Right.
And Black people in this community being able to start to have a voice, because there were people who I've known and worked with, and they did not feel they had a voice. Now they have a voice, and they will talk about how being engaged with the community group and with the dialogue on race has given them the space and the outlet to be able to share, how it feels for them to be here in Montgomery County, having folks from Roanoke, Franklin County, North Carolina, and other places throughout Southwest Virginia and beyond look at what we're doing and see, how does that work? How does that happen? How do you engage the local governing bodies, and how do you keep bringing in all these people and having these conversations? And it's because of those calm ripples and people speaking to other people and understanding. We're not here to beat up on people. We're not here to call people out, even though I don't have a problem doing that. We're here to make a change.
Right.
And there's enough battling going on already. So those nice ripples that go even further. We had a gentleman come from Fredericksburg 2 years ago because he went online and he was just looking for, work around the dialogue about race, and saw this and came down from Fredericksburg to see what we were doing. The Episcopal Church in Roanoke, having Dr. Reed and I come down to talk to them about the work that we're doing, and being very, very intentional and helping folks understand, no, the conversation right now is about the African American community, because that's what we're talking about, because that's who we are. Not being apologetic for that.
Right.
Acknowledging there's a lot more work to be done overall, but at the same time, this is what we're talking about, and not letting that be diluted. I think it's very powerful for African Americans to hear and see that, because everyone wants to know, how come we're not talking about other groups? How come we're not talking about other areas? And it's like, because we live here in Montgomery County, and we are in an African American group, and our focus is the African American community. At some point, the whole idea has always been, if other races of people or other groups of people want to understand how we've done this, we love to have those conversations to keep those ripples going. But I believe it is very, very important that it happen among those groups, and that there is a group of people who are committed to their issues, and not letting them being, for use of a better word, diluted to so many other facets that the thing that brought you to the table, you can't see it anymore, right? So I believe that's very important. That it's like that whole thing about being colorblind. I don't want you to be colorblind. I want you to see me. I want you to see brown people. I want you to see LGBTQ people. I want you to see everybody for who they are and respect them for who they are and understand more.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of being a part of a fellowship with the Kellogg Foundation on racial equity and healing, and was in a national cohort of 25 people from all across this country, from Hawaii to DC. And it was some wonderful things that I learned about our Native people and the horrible things that are happening there, that are some things that keep me awake at night. But it gives me peace to know that there are people out there who are working to make that situation better, who are raising the concerns about that population and the Latino population, and understanding all the many facets of that, and that there are people out there working to do the same thing that I'm working to do with the African American community, women working on issues and pushing forward with issues affecting women. And then when we get to my labor work, I sit on the executive council for my international. I am the only woman. We have a person that's a director, a woman that's a director, but she's not a voting member, wasn't elected. And that's a council of 7. So being in a position at a national level where I'm helping to make decisions about how we better represent our memberships, how we make sure that we as a labor union are being inclusive and listening to those voices from other perspectives. Can't wait to retire. This is my big thing, and then do this work full time, because those ripples, unless there's something that starts that ripple, everything just stays just like it is. Everything looks nice and glossy, right? Until something disturbs something. So it is such a blessing to be able to do this work and see how it improves and affects other people to do the work, or just have an opportunity. So on my marker when I leave here, they say you have the beginning and the end date, and it's that dash. I just want that dash to represent she helped somebody. That's all I want, is she helped somebody. So that's it for me. There's a piece to this whole story, and how someday I hope that we can stop, as people call the fight, right? But it won't happen unless we continue to be vigilant. And I remember seeing an interview, a young lady being interviewed about work around social justice and equality within the African American community, and how things are going backwards. And she made the comment, she said, in my generation, our parents were able to have better jobs, better education, more money, more stuff, right? So they gave it to us, but they didn't teach us how to fight. They didn't help us understand what it has taken for them to be able to have those opportunities, for us to be able to have opportunities. So a lot of our young people believe that this is the norm. This is just the way life is, and we're entitled to. I believe the Black Lives Matter movement helped shake some things up to help folks understand, no, there's so much stuff going on around you. And just because your life is a little comfortable, you cannot sit and not make sure that everybody else around you is having access to the same things. So we have to make sure we're educating our children as African Americans, that we're telling our stories. And that's something that dawned on me a few years ago, because I just really like to say behind the scenes, do what I'm supposed to do, and then come home. And telling my story is like, what story? I do what everybody else does. I go to work. I put on my clothes just like everybody else does. I have to clean the house sometimes, like just like everybody else does, right? But then I started, God said, it's time. You need to start telling your story when people ask you to tell your story. And part of that story is going back to my children, going back to my mother and my grandmother, understanding that how they stood up and how they made sure things were better, teaching my children that. And now that I have grandchildren, teaching them why they have to be vigilant, why they have to speak up, why they have to say, who said so, right? And not apologizing for who they are. That is something we have got to make sure that we are doing, that we are educating our children about our history, how white folks helped us, how as our country's demographics are changing so wonderfully and so beautifully, but it has created a lot of fear. And that fear is leading to trying to push things back, that they have to be vigilant. Yeah. And they have to make sure that they are speaking truth to power, questioning, educating themselves, and sitting at the tables where discussions are happening, not to be comfortable. Right. Do not get comfortable with what you have, because it can be taken away so easily. And unfortunately, just the color of your skin, no matter how much education you have, no matter how much wealth you have, to many, many people in this country, you are still seen as lesser than and are not entitled to. And we have to make sure our children understand you are. And if you don't want to lose that, if you want to keep making things better for your children, then you have to be vigilant, and you have to speak up when things are wrong. You have to stand. So as my older grandchildren, one's about to turn 13, another just turned 12, and even the 7 and the 5-year-old, when they're at Grandma Penny's house, they understand we watch the news. We have conversations about Donald Trump. We have conversations about unions. We have conversations about what it used to be like for Grandma Page, right? So that they understand. When I received the Strong Men and Women's Award from the Virginia History, whatever it was about, right? Having 4 of my grandchildren there to be a part of that, the younger ones, it's going to hit them one day, right? But the older, my grandson is almost 13. He understands, some of this stuff now. And question is, Grandma going to be making a speech? These are the things that we have to do. We have to make sure our children understand we are there for them. We need to stop worrying about what house we have, what car we're driving. My daughter gave me a bumper sticker. Many years ago, she had gone on a field trip in school, high school. And it says, it won't matter what house you live in. It won't matter what job you have. It won't matter what car you drive. What will matter is how you raised your kids. We need to make sure we're helping them understand you matter, and you have to play a part in moving our people and our country forward. Parents and grandparents, don't sugarcoat things. Help them understand you're the next generation. And it will be left up to you not to let down our ancestors who came in chains and survived and pushed forward you will be letting them down if you
Right.
don't make sure you're playing your part.